I had to do some sums earlier on, Sir Edward, because I seem to recall that the very first time I spoke as a Member of Parliament was in a debate in this very chamber on the matter of this injustice to 1950s-born women. And I was able to find out that it was actually the 5th of July 2017 that I made that contribution. And if I recall, during that day there was, as there seems to be this afternoon, a great consensus amongst members that 1950s-born women have indeed suffered a great injustice. What has changed since then, however, is that we have had years of debates, of petitions, of demonstrations, and an investigation by the Ombudsman, who's also found in their favour. Little could I have imagined back then, some 8 years ago now, that we would be standing here in this very chamber debating and agreeing yet again that a great injustice had befallen 1950s-born women, and yet we'd be arguing about a government refusing to implement and to honour the recommendations of the Ombudsman. It would be easy to despair if it wasn't for the absolute inspiration that is the 1950s-born women of my constituency. The thousands of women who have spent the past eight or so years diligently attending meetings, organising petitions, offering support to each other, because the impact of this maladministration is severe, as other members have mentioned. People have fallen to great financial hardship and distress, and far too often that has also led to strain on family relationships as well as an impact on people's health. But these women have stuck together, they've organised, they've ensured that they give each other support in the darkest of days, and more importantly, they set about the task of diligently collecting the information and the evidence required of them to prove their case as part of the Ombudsman's process. And so I would agree with all those who have spoken before me that having done that, having jumped through the many hoops of the various stages of the Ombudsman process and some compiling cases to the independent case examiner, of having done all that, proven their case, having the Ombudsman rule in their favour, for us to then fail to offer them that justice is a real travesty. And I would agree with others who claim that it does call into question not only the integrity of the Ombudsman process itself, but perhaps more fundamentally the whole democratic process as embodied by this Parliament.
I'm extremely grateful to the Honourable Gentleman for making a powerful and eloquent case. And he's absolutely right that this goes beyond even the just case of the WASPI women to something more fundamental about how governments are held to account and how they willingly deal with that. You know, this is not something that should be extracted with pain and anguish from a government. It's something the government should step forward, change heart, change tune and deliver.
Well, I thank the Honourable Member for that intervention, and I very much agree. We have an opportunity to right this wrong now. And not only would it be delivering justice to the 1950s-born women who suffered as a consequence of these changes, or the failure in communicating these changes to the state pension age, but it will also do a very important contribution to restoring faith in MPs, in Parliament, and the whole democratic process. And so I very much hope that the government can reconsider on this matter. However, I have to say, and perhaps this is the cynic in me, or the pessimist rather in me, when we consider that everything we've asked of 1950s women to do in recent years, of jumping through all the various hoops of the processes, of coming up to London, and if you're coming up from West Wales, I can assure you that is quite the journey to make, of petitioning, of demonstrating, of organising, to have had the case proven and exceeded and accepted by the Ombudsman, but then to ignore it, is quite outrageous. But on top of that then, there is this case of the government is refusing, as I understand it, to even engage now with representatives of 1950s women in alternative forms of mediation. And perhaps worst of all, and this would be my one call and request of the Minister, give Parliament the opportunity and government time to vote on this matter. We've already heard this afternoon's debate of 4 options that the Parliamentary and Health Service Ombudsman offered. Give us that chance to express and voice the will of Parliament, because I am confident that there is that consensus in Parliament that we do want to see justice done to a generation of quite inspiring women that I feel incredibly honoured to represent.